Hi everyone, my name is Brittney and welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk to you about all the things that I watched in Q4 of 2021.
It's Britney, bitch.
I love watching other people's videos where they talk about the things that they watched and how they felt about them because I'm obviously a very avid TV show and movie watcher. I've always been a big film buff. I really love all forms of media, especially if it's something visual. And gratefully, I have a lot of good streaming services that I like to watch on, and I kind of cycle through and watch different shows. So I kind of wanted to go over them here, and I wanted to start this as a new series on my channel where I kind of go over everything I watched each quarter, because also I kind of wanted to like track what I've been watching and see how much I'm actually watching that's new or old or rewatching. This will not be covering anything technically that I'm rewatching. If I do rewatch a show and I mention it here, it's because there was a new season of it, so I'll talk about it. If there was not a new season of something, I'm just rewatching Breaking Bad for like the millionth time, I'm not gonna bring it up. But you should know that I watch Breaking Bad like once a year, minimum. And if you ever want my rewatch list, just go ahead and let me know and I'll make a whole video about it because there's so many that I tend to like rewatch and cycle through depending on my mood and also my brother's mood, what he's willing to put up with, because I can rewatch almost all my shows all the time. So I will be talking about TV shows as well as movies. I didn't get all of them because on HBO Max, by the way, I cannot see what I did watch. So I can't really talk about everything because I can't find like a watch list on HBO Max where it shows like what I did end up watching. Like I can kind of only remember what I did watch. So if I didn't remember it, it's not on the list for that. So I'm really sorry, but I'm trying to do a lot better, obviously going forward, of keeping track of what I'm actually watching. So let's start with Hulu first. And we watched Vikings, which is a show that's technically on the History Channel, and it's obviously all about Vikings. We watched all 6 or 7 seasons and really enjoyed this. It's a little bit slow at some points, and I really don't like their time jumps. The way that they like do time is a little bit frustrating because I really would like it better if it was like 20 years later, but I know a lot of Viking history they have to approximate because they don't really know like how long it was in between certain events. So they kind of just like age up the characters or whatever, but I do not like the way they age up some characters, but that's just me. I'm very particular. But overall, Vikings is really good. Really enjoyed that. It also has Kato in it from the Hunger Games. If you like the Hunger Games and you hated Kato, you'll probably end up loving him in this because I love Bjorn. He was so good. He was so good as that character, and the Vikings has a spot in my heart. The other show I watch on Hulu is The Great North, and this is basically an animated series about a family that lives in Alaska, and like their mom left and their dad's kind of dealing with it. This is a very famous guy who like, there's actually a lot of famous people in this show. I cannot remember his name, like for the life of me. Just go look up this show. I thought it was really sweet and cute. It was very irreverent. They actually get Alanis Morissette to like speak in it and stuff. There's nothing else I can really say about it other than it's very Alaskan, it's very fun, it's very snowy, irreverent, easy to watch in the background sort of a show. But I'm not overly attached to it. The next thing we watch on Hulu is What We Do in the Shadows. And this fucking show is one of my new favorite rewatch shows. And I wasn't expecting that from this show. Like, to be honest, I've been told to watch it for years. The 3rd season just came out and we finally just got around to watching it. I have a lot of family friends who are telling me to watch this. And it's basically a mockumentary about vampires. So if you like The Office, you would probably really like the show. It's basically The Office with vampires is the best way to describe it. And I feel like the 1st season is honestly the funniest because you're completely new to this world and these vampires and how they actually act. And it's just fucking funny. I can't begin to tell you how much I love this new show, but I've laughed out loud so many times watching it. Like, it's one of those shows that actually makes me laugh. So if you're looking for a laugh, go watch this. We ended up watching around Halloween, and just so that you know, it's January and we're already rewatching it. I think that says a lot about this show and its power. Please just go give this a shot. Give it a few episodes. I think you'll really enjoy it. But especially if you watch The Office, I'm just gonna say right now, you're like basically obligated to check this out because I think you're gonna love it. The next up was Ouija, Origin of Evil, and I'm pretty sure this is a Mike Flanagan movie. I can't remember. I think that's why we ended up watching it. Really enjoyed it. I like a good horror film, and all I can say is I enjoyed it. It's not like the most like new favorite or whatever, but as a horror film, I actually thought it was pretty good, and I liked it, so check it out. The next one we watched was Annabelle Creation, and if you didn't know, my brother and I are very big fans of the Conjuring universe, and we'd never actually seen it, and honestly, this movie was really fucking good. It kind of sticks with me too, so the next time it's on TV, I will definitely be rewatching it. It's one of those movies that we rewatch year-round. It's anything in the Conjuring universe, except for The Nun, which we won't talk about. But anyway, this is actually really good, and we're looking for the other ones that are on any streaming service because we basically just want to like get all of them in the Conjuring universe because the first and the second Conjuring are just like top tier horror films. I'm gonna quickly talk about the one thing we watched on Amazon, which is LuLa Rich, and it's basically an expose on LuLaRoe. I don't know if any of you guys have ever bought anything from LuLaRoe. I was obsessed. I had multiple consultants. I wore primarily LuLaRoe for like 2 years of of my life because especially as a fat girl, it is really hard to find comfy, fitting clothing. And all their clothes were so soft and comfortable and they fit my size. And I could literally just go into any consultant's closet, pick out my size in any pattern I wanted, and it would fit and be comfortable. But LuLaRoe went downhill, and also this expose shows how it basically was like a cult and all their bad business practices and how LuLaRoe really went downhill and also exploited other people for money. It's a very long story, but I love exposés. So if you have any exposés that you've watched, drop them down below. I don't care what they're about. I love exposés. And this one was so interesting. That was the only thing I watched on Amazon. So now we're going to go over to Netflix, which we watched primarily most of our shows on, I guess, this last quarter. So we watched Brittney Vs Spears. And need I say more? We love Britney, free Britney, and totally in support of her. This was such an interesting movie. I really love anything about Britney Spears. We watched a lot of like little things about her because I wanted to know more about her story in the conservatorship and all that shit that went down. So would recommend. This one is really hard to talk about, but Squid Game. This took everyone by storm last year and for a good reason. Episode 6 Marbles, I literally cannot get out of my head. Like I see so many parts of this show in my head at like random parts of my life, and I definitely would love to rewatch it. The problem is obviously I don't like dubbing over shows. It's in Korean and my brother hates watching subtitles to like actually read, like to understand what's going on in a story. So may take a while for us to get to rewatching it, but I love Squid Game. This show is basically about really poor people who owe a lot of debt can basically compete in childhood games turned deadly. That's all I'm gonna say. Go check out Squid Game. There's a reason it's so famous. It is expertly done. It's amazing. Like, please just go do it. And also, do not listen to it dubbed. That is disgusting. How dare you watch something in English dub? Unless you can't read. If you can't read, sure, I'll allow it. The next thing we watched was season 2 of Sexy Beast, and this show is basically all about dating, but like your face is always covered in something, so they don't know who you are, so you like get dressed up as like a parrot or the devil or whatever. This show is really fun to watch, and my brother and I always kind of like root for who they're gonna want to date or what they look like beneath like their makeup and their costumes. Personal opinion, really like it's one of those really fun shows we just ended up like watching in like a day. I would definitely go check it out. Really enjoyed. We also watched the 3rd season of You, and also with most of these shows, I do end up rewatching whatever seasons come before it because I like to know what was going on. And You, I would say, is probably one of my favorite shows. I did end up rewatching it, I think, once last year because it's just an interesting show, and honestly, I just find the whole franchise really interesting. I like the books, but I think the show definitely does it way better. I think the characters are just so much more compelling, and the storylines are so much more compelling. I love You. Basically, we're following Joe Goldberg, who is a complete stalker and ends up stalking and like killing all the women he's like in love with. And there's a lot of convoluting factors here. So just go check it out. Give the 1st season a try. It takes place in New York. The 2nd season takes place in LA. And the 3rd season also takes place in LA, which I know is different from the book, but I haven't read the book yet. And then the 4th season, I'm not going to tell you where it's going to take place, but it's very interesting. One of the movies we watched on Netflix was Night Teeth. And this is basically about like vampires. It really wasn't interesting, honestly. It was kind of boring, but we have already just like watched another like terrible show I forgot to even mention because it was like not even worth mentioning. It was like some weird movie about like a witch's house, and we ended up just watching this afterwards, and it was fine. I'm kind of sad because Megan Fox was in it. Like I think this had like good potential to be something really interesting, but honestly I found it like a little bit boring. It was more about the aesthetics versus like substance here. And then we ended up watching season 5 of Big Mouth, and this show is really popular. It's obviously about people and their growing bodies and their relationships and going through school. And I love this show. I think it's just really fun to watch. I love the hormone monsters and the monstresses, like amazing. I'm obsessed with Maury. Like I think this show does so many wonderful things in a lot of ways. I think it really helps people understand that their bodies and the way they function, other people have the same issues and have gone through the same growing pains. So I always love a good animated, funny show. It's obviously very inappropriate. Would not recommend it to like your young children. We also watched Tiger King 2, and this was really interesting. I really love the Tiger King universe. I really love finding out more about it. I love exposés. So Tiger King is basically an expose on like the private zoo world and how people like own their zoos and they get like these exotic animals and then like raise them. And it's a long story. Go check out Tiger King. I think the 1st season obviously is better, but Tiger King 2 I think also elaborates on some issues like Carol Baskin killing her husband and finding out more information about that. It's a very interesting There's some interesting theories out there about it. And I think that no matter what, like I'm going to watch anything related to Tiger King just because I find it interesting. And I just also find it shocking that like people allow this to happen and that people like buy these animals and then they like lock them up in trucks to die. Like it's a little triggery for the animal abuse. So if you have a hard time with that, please don't watch any Tiger King stuff. But there's some crazy ass stories in here. Next we watched is F is for Family season 5. So I rewatched obviously the whole thing. We rewatched it within like 2 days. It's a really easy show to rewatch. F is for Family is about like a family in the 70s that we're following. And trust me, just give it like a few episodes and you're just like so entrenched in this world. And it's just so funny to follow this family. And it has like Justin Long and Laura Dern in here as speaking characters. I really love F for Family, and I'm really sad that it ended with season 5, but I think it ended well. I'm just still salty that it's the last season, but definitely go check this out. This is one of my rewatches as well. I love F is for Family. I rewatch every season as often as I can. The next one we watched was A Castle for Christmas, which is like a new Christmas release that has Carrie Ewells and Brooke Shields in it. It was all right. I think it's a nice, heartwarming Christmas thing. I'm not really into Christmas movies sometimes because I think they're very predictable. I wanted to give it a chance. It was fine. What else can you say? But I love the actors in this. I love the Scottish setting. I love the history behind some things. But I mean, overall, I think it was just another like heartwarming. It's a very heartwarming movie, and they're not always my favorite, so here you go. The next one on this list, I forgot about, had to look up really quick because I forgot what the fuck it was. And it's called Love Hard, and this movie is another Christmas film, and it has Nina Dobrev in it. She's from The Vampire Diaries, and basically she is like a writer for like a magazine. She writes about all her like terrible breakups, and then she thinks she finally found this guy online, and then she goes to see him and surprise him for Christmas in person, and she finds that she's been catfished, and yada, yada, yada. It was like fun. I really liked the beginning, and then after that, I just didn't care. So again, I think that's my problem with Christmas movies. I feel like sometimes they're like way too heartwarming for me. I really need a Christmas movie like Just Friends, where it's like all funny and then like a little bit of heartwarming. It was fine. The next we watched was Nicole Byer, BBW, Big Beautiful Weirdo, and I really love her, but I did not love her stand-up. I don't know what it is, but I love her like on Nailed It, and I love her in shows or her podcast. She's really funny, but for some reason her stand-up was so cringe to me, and the funniest part was the guy off to the side like laughing at his own fucking jokes the whole time. I mean, honestly, like his laugh the whole time was so fucking funny, but her stand-up was not, and don't come for me. I love her. If I ever meet her, Nicole, I love you. Sweetie, I love you. I don't know why it wasn't funny to me. I think a lot of comedians, I love them as people, but like when I have people do stand-up, I don't find it funny, and I feel like it's usually the opposite. Like if I love your stand-up, I usually don't find you funny, like in real life. You know what I'm saying? And then they switch it around. So didn't really enjoy this. And on New Year's Eve, we watched The Unforgivable, and this this movie was going really strong. Like I really love this movie for a good part of it. It was really interesting. So we're following Sandra Bullock. She was in prison for killing a cop for a very long period of time. And then we find out that the little girl she was trying to like live with and save was her little sister, and she wants to like reconnect with her little sister. This movie was so intense and so good, and it ended so poorly in my opinion. Like I fucking hated the ending. I talked to my family members who watched it later too. They also hated the ending. Like nobody I know likes the ending. I just feel like it kind of like ruined such an amazing movie. Like it was going such a dramatic, deep way, and then it just ended, and I was like, what? I just didn't like the ending. I really hated the ending. So otherwise, I think it was really great. Sandra Bullock obviously does an amazing job as an actress, and the last movie of the year we actually watched was Don't Look Up, and I really wasn't sure what to expect from this. I knew that it was kind of like a political, social satire, and it definitely was that. My brother was very surprised at first. He was like, why is it like funny? I was like, dude, this isn't like a serious like space drama. Like this is like, it's a satire. It's meant to poke fun at our society. And a lot of people who are conservative in my family apparently took like quite a big offense to this movie. I'm not conservative, so I didn't take offense, but I definitely saw some of the comparisons. I think this this film is really interesting. This film is basically a social commentary on climate change. And they use the metaphor of like, if there was a meteor headed towards Earth, like what would people do? They'd probably just deny it. And that's exactly what happens in this movie. Like we have Jennifer Lawrence and Leo DiCaprio in it, and so many other amazing actors and actors. Like Meryl Streep's in here, Jonah Hill's in here. Can't remember Leo DiCaprio's wife in this. I love her as an actress. I love her. This movie was actually really good. I really enjoyed it. The ending slapped. This combined, it was total social satire, made me laugh, but also like has such a serious topic of climate change and how people are denying climate change even though it's going to happen. Like, the meteor is going to hit the Earth. It's going to happen. It's not like we're not making this shit up. So I really love this movie for so many different reasons, but really enjoyed it. Also, I want to do a special mention really quick because I didn't talk about it, and technically I watched it in the last of like Q3 of last year, but I want to talk about Midnight Mass because this was a really interesting show, and it's by Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan's probably one of my favorite directors. He directed The Haunting of Hill House. He directed a lot of things, and he directed Midnight Mass. And I think this is a really interesting show. It goes in a very different direction than you expected. Just give this a chance. The only big problem I have with this show was the amount of monologues. The amount of monologues that I just didn't need were put in here. But anyway, go check Midnight Mass out. He always has his wife and stuff too. I really appreciate that people do that. I don't know. I think it's just so cute. She's also a fantastic actress. But Midnight Mass is not what you expect. So give it a couple episodes and I'm sure you'll be as shocked as I was. But also not shocked. Like, I guess he alludes to a lot of stuff, but it's very, very interesting. Anyway, so those are all the things that I ended up watching in Q4. I'm actually keeping a really good list. So this time around for Q1 of 2022, I can keep a much better list and don't forget anything because obviously, as I told you, HBO Max does not tell me what I watched. Even though I did watch a lot of like old Christmas movies. I don't think I've really like watched anything new on HBO Max, but just a bunch of Christmas movies like, you know, like Christmas Vacation, Four Christmases, whatever. So whatever's on for Christmas time, I end up watching a lot of stuff on HBO Max. The Polar Express, terrifying. Anyway, please let me know what you've been watching down below. If you have any new favorite shows, I have to hear about it. I love TV movies, so whatever it is, pop it down below and I'll probably go check it out. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe. Talk to you guys next time. Bye.